Hey, everybody, this is Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today, we're talking with Jason Sherman, successful innovator, award winning filmmaker, published author, and tech startup expert. He's the CEO and co founder of the video friendship app Spinner and the AI creation platform Vengo AI. I'm super excited about this because I love technology and all the ways that we can use it to revolutionize business. So, with that, welcome, Jason, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show, Brett.
Pleasure. So, I know that you're going to be sharing with us some amazing tips. Obviously, I've got a lot of stuff that I want to ask you, but I do want to start off a little bit with your background. Can you just share your journey from basically where you started your career or whatever to how you've gotten involved in so many different things and accomplished so much?
Yeah, I guess the beginning really was where I started out as a pre-med student in college, but I switched over to computers shortly after because I saw how hard it was, and also I didn't want to be in school for 20 years. So I decided, let me just get into computers. I loved technology as a kid, and then out of college, I found myself in this unique position where everybody needed my help, either building computers, building websites. I was one of those guys that was kind of my own geek squad, right?
Yeah.
And so that turned into a consulting company. That was like my first real business, and it kind of took off. Like I just needed more. I kept getting more and more clients, but over the years, I kept finding myself kind of stagnant. Right? I was like, okay, well, this is fun, but it's getting a little too jobby, like too kind of boring. And so I switched over into like writing books and publishing books, and then making writing screenplays and making movies and producing and directing these movies. And I was always a musician, so I was always making music, DJing, and things like that. And it's actually my first company ever in college. Most people don't know this, but the first company I ever started was in college. Was a DJ company,
Nice.
and like a record company. It was actually really successful back then. But so over the years, each of those things just kind of kept being part of my life. So that's kind of where I am today. Is I just do a little bit of each thing, whether it's technology, film, music, writing, um, you know, all sorts of different things that go together really well.
So it's stuff that you were excited about, you had a passion for, or you saw a need. And so basically you sort of followed that and said, well, listen, if I have a blueprint for doing something successfully, I can sort of, just duplicate that here, duplicate that there. And as
Yep.
you mentioned, I mean, there's obviously some crossover in the things that you're doing. They're not completely disparate. So I can see where, you'd find some commonalities to make it work in one place if you had it work somewhere else too. So, from the perspective of business, I know one of the keys to starting a successful business is to really understand your target market. Um, but I also know because I do a lot of coaching for entrepreneurs, things like that, that it's a really big challenge for people trying to understand. They have a product, they have a service, they have an idea for their business, and what they see is, geez, how could I apply this to everybody in every market? And I
Yeah.
know that this will be universal. So I don't understand how to target anything because really, so is there advice that you have for how you can really figure out your target market and niche down to a way that you can really be successful there?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that it's a challenge for people, right? Because we always tell people you got to find your target market, right? So we always tell people, but what we don't really tell people is how hard it is to do that, because it really is. And what I always tell people is you do have to kind of get it out in general, right? You have to get it out there in general to find the target market, right? You can't just start sending ads to a certain subset of people, demographics, and gender or location or whatever. You have to really send it out to everybody and see who bites, and then based on who bites, then you can double down on that particular person. So for example, let's say you post an ad for a product that you just made, and you're selling this product on Amazon or wherever, and you're putting ads out, and you're just generalizing it. You think people between the age of 20 and 40 are going to like your product because it's that kind of product. It's like a technology widget or something, or like a new phone case that talks to you. And you're like, okay, I know people in this age range want it. So you put it out there, but then you find that like 30-year-old stay-at-home moms are the ones that want this product, right? So now you're going to like double down on that that demographic. 30-year-old stay-at-home moms. You're not going to do the 40-year-old, dads that are out working, or the 20-year-old kids that are at college. You're going to be, so that's how you do it, right? You got to really figure out who it is by posting ads and by posting surveys, and showing your mock-ups to people that that are different age ranges. I always tell people, if you have friends and family who are in the different age ranges, different genders, different backgrounds, that's really the best way to get some good feedback. Because if you're getting a lot of pushback from the 20-year-olds, and not a lot of pushback from the 60-year-olds, well, now the 60-year-olds are the ones that want that new pickleball racket that you have, right? So that's really the best way to do it, is really to put it out there and see who bites.
Yeah, I think, the idea of multiple hooks and then seeing where you get the nibbles makes a lot of sense. I think, oftentimes it's sort of the combination of the confusion of either thinking that your product does apply to everybody, so trying to make it apply to everybody, or the other side of it is, if people want, you're going to try to force a market segment to want what you have, and it doesn't work that way. We can't force people to take something or want something we've got. All we can do is figure out what they want and give it to them. And I think that, it's really good advice in terms of feeding the winners and starving the losers is the other thing. I see a lot of people that if they try something and they have five different marketing campaigns or whatever, and two are working, they sort of neglect those because they're working, and they try to get the other three working. And I'm thinking, you're better off to feed the stuff that's working and
Yeah.
try to expand that and cut those other ones loose, or find a different way to go about it. But I love the idea of being experimental in
Yeah.
terms of figuring out where that market is, where those, inflection points are, and trying to double
That's the
down on
key,
that.
right? The key is the A/B testing, right? The experimentation, figuring out which copy works, which video works, which image works. And you said something. You said you don't want to really get it out to everybody, and you can't force people to like it. But here's the funny thing: is by targeting a specific market and hitting that niche, and starting to be successful, other people will hear about it, and they're going to start buying it. And look at like something like Scrub Daddy, that sponge that was on Shark Tank. Like, they probably had a very specific target market originally. Maybe stay-at-home moms that were cleaning dishes all day long, right? Maybe that's what their market was. But now everybody's got a Scrub Daddy, right? Everybody's got one. So like, it doesn't really. I mean, I don't have one, but everyone.
I know what you mean.
you know,
Yeah.
so like, they didn't expect that, but that's what happened. It blew up.
Yeah, well, that's true. And then people start to see other use cases for things. And then
Yeah.
again, once you have sort of a track where you realize, oh, this was successful, you can leverage that to figure out how to penetrate other markets as well. But at least if you get the thing up and running and working in the first place, it's funny because you mentioned the idea of like what works and what doesn't. I know, I'm not a master copywriter or anything, but I've written my share of sales letters. And the funny thing is, obviously, you always split test your headlines.
Yeah.
So so many times I would write a couple of headlines that I really spent time on. I thought, oh, these are good, these are gems. And then the
No.
one that I put in as a throwaway that I'm like, there's no way this is going to work, outperformed them all. And I'm like, well, what do I know? You know what I mean? Like, all
That
you can
always
do is
happens.
follow the process. Yeah.
That always
So
happens.
that's very cool.
You also have to be prepared to switch your target market. Like, for example, with Vengo AI, we started out as a consumer web app because our consumer app Spinner, the people were asking for a consumer based product to customize their AI. It turned out that after launching it and beta testing it and getting 1,000 people to use it, it really wasn't for that market. And through like talking to business owners and figuring out if there was an angle there, we found that it was for the B2B market, and we completely pivoted and shifted to B2B SaaS. Now, that took 6 months to do, and it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of feedback iteration, a lot of beta testing and data driven analytics. And it takes time, and people need to know that too, that it takes time to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the patience element, I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because the patience element is another thing that I see. I think a lot of people have a disposable mentality about whatever business they're going into. So they start something with the excitement of thinking about where it can go. And if it doesn't get there right away, they pull the plug and move to something else. Well, the problem is you just keep repeating those first few failure steps
Exactly.
over and over again, because the beginning is always ugly.
Right.
You very, very infrequently are you going to launch something and it's just going to explode right out of the, it happens, but it's really, really rare. And in most cases, you're dialing in, figuring things out. And, once you sort of get there, then you're able to build it up. But I think it's important if we're passionate about what we've got and we think that there's a real need in the market that it fills, that we need to stick with it and find the way to make it work as opposed to giving it a try, and when it doesn't catch on instantly, go on to the next thing. Because in all
100%.
likelihood, we're going to run into the same problem with the next one too.
Over and over
So,
again.
yep, exactly. So I know another challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs have is figuring out the right life cycle for product development. So, of course, we need to start with a minimum viable product and we need to build it from there. But in your opinion and your experience, how do we build the MVP the right way?
That's a good question because 99% of people who have come to me in the past as clients when I was running my development shop were doing it the wrong way every single time. And here's how it goes. Most people think they have the next $1 billion idea and they write down, and I'm not kidding, they type up or they write down 10 to 20 pages worth of features that they want to include in their $1 billion idea. This is going to kill Facebook, they say. Okay, great. Sure. You need $100 billion to do that, right? Literally, or whatever amount of money they have. So I always tell them, you got to cut 19 of those pages out and focus on one page. And this is what I'm telling everybody is take all the features you have, all the ideas you have, and focus on your core value proposition, which is your main feature that people are going to love, right? Let's say, you're creating an artistic social network for artists, right? We already have a bunch of those, but let's say yours is specifically for abstract art. So you want to make it so easy for people to post their abstract art that all the other apps make it hard to do and yours is easy. Okay, don't add profiles, don't add logins, don't add, video, don't add this, that, and the third. Just add the way to post those artistic abstract pieces, and that's it. And make it simple and fun. Then you show people, hey, this is what I got. I got this cool thing. What do you think? Oh, that was easy to use, but I would really like it if the button was over here, or I would really like it if I could also add a quick message about what the painting is called, and I would really like this, that, and the third. Okay, great. You got feedback. Right? You didn't just add 70,000 features that people didn't ask for or didn't want. You're adding what people are physically telling you in person. This is what I would love for your app to do next. That's called iterative feedback. That's how you're supposed to build this thing. So what's a minimum viable product exactly? It's the minimum amount of product that you can build to get across your core value proposition, your idea, your concept to people. Now, you don't have to actually build anything. Let's get this out in the open, right? You don't have to build anything. You can literally draw something on a piece of paper and say, here's my idea. What do you think? You can make a 5-question survey on Typeform or SurveyMonkey or whatever and just ask someone, hey, what do you think of this, 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 and this? Okay, great, thanks. 100 people you ask, 80% say they want that button. Now you know that button is important. Or 80% of people don't want this commenting thing. Okay, well then don't put that in the app. You have to ask people what they want before you build it. And that's how you build it. And it's slowly, step by step, you build it. Once you have a physical product and it's kind of going and you have 100 people testing it, then you want to start maybe doing focus groups, start opening it up to 500 people, then 1,000 people, and you want to go to the colleges and go to classes. They're always eager to try something new, offer gift cards for Starbucks. We do that all the time, free pretzels, things like that. Kids love free stuff and they like to be involved with new projects. And the reason why you have to grow slowly, ask any of the clients in the past that didn't want to listen to me, that wanted to grow to 100,000 users quickly, and the app crashed. It took months to fix because you have to go through the growing pains of 500 users to 1,000 users to 10,000 and so on, because every stage that you hit, you're going to find new bugs that you didn't see before because as you scale, new bugs start to show up.
Yeah, that's a great point in terms of scaling in stages. The other thing is, even if you had the budget to roll it out massively, what ends up happening is when you get that crash, it kills your credibility.
Yeah.
And now you get people that you've turned off to the app that might be interested in using it, but now because they're turned off, it's harder to convince them to come back than it was to get them to try it in the first place. So I think That's really important, and I love the idea that you said where what you're doing is instead of trying to figure out all the things this thing needs to do in its 10th stage of adoption, just start with the first thing and then get people into it. They'll give you the answers to the tests. They're going to tell you these are the things we care about, these are the things we don't. And just like the headline testing, right? There are going to be some features that you're sitting there thinking this is going to be awesome that people aren't going to care about. So if you waste your time and your money building that in there, not only might it not be useful, it might confuse people. It might make it, less easy to use. And so then people get confused. They don't want to, they don't adopt it as well. And
And you only
so
get it.
I
You only
love,
get one shot at a first impression, right? You said you turn people up. You really only get one shot, and we've had this happen before in our apps where we launched. Maybe something happened. Maybe something crashed. Something didn't work, and people started asking to delete their accounts. We asked them to come back. They don't come back. Because
yep.
if you go to a restaurant and you get food poisoning, you're not going to go back to that restaurant, and that's the
Right.
analogy right there, right? That's it. If you're going to give someone food poisoning from your product, they're not going to come back. So you got to make sure
Yeah.
they are not.
And I've done the same thing. I had a software product that I was excited about, and it wasn't quite ready, but I had already had all the wheels in motion for a product launch that I was going to do. And so we rolled it out, and then we were trying to stuff the cat back in the bag
Yeah.
because there were issues, and I'm like trying to figure this out. But the problem is now that it's live, you've got all the marketing and promotion, all these other things
Yep.
going on that you got to tend to as well. But now
Never
you're
do any
also trying to
marketing
fight
until,
fires.
let's go back to that. Never do any marketing. I've had so many people do these huge ad campaigns going live on October 3rd, et cetera, et cetera. Don't miss out on June 4th. We're going to launch this platform, da, da, da. And then they get like 100,000 people that show up and the app doesn't work. I
Right.
swear to God, the app just doesn't work at all. Like it won't. You can't log in. It's broken. Like you cannot do that. And let's be clear about one thing here. Beta testing is there for a reason, right? You want 500 people to break your app. You want 500 people to hold your physical widget and find something wrong with it. You want 5,000 people to use your app and find something wrong with it. Because 5,000 people, although they matter to you as an owner and beta testing, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You want 5 million people, right? So 500, 5,000, those are like the people that you tell them up front, this thing doesn't work great. And we need you to tell us the bugs you're finding. We need you to tell us how it broke. What did you do? What were the steps you took? What kind of device were you using? What were you doing? What did you push? Like, and this is how it works, right? But people don't want to do that. They want to do what you said. They want to launch the big thing,
Yeah.
get it out there, and then it crashes and burns
Yeah. And then you learn the hard way. You're like, okay, I won't do
the
that
real
again.
hard way.
I don't know if you've ever seen the show. It's very nichey, but it's called W1A, and it's a British show, and it's basically about the British Broadcasting Company. But there's a platform, an AI platform that they build called Syncopatico or something.
Okay.
And the guy's like he's presenting and he goes, yeah, this is 8 years in development, and this will
Oh,
literally think for you. It'll do all this other stuff. And he goes to show it, and
oh,
the big screen says no signal. You know what I
oh.
mean? And that's exactly, you know what I mean? You
eight
get that
years.
thing
I
where it's
love
like,
that.
oh, it breaks right when you get to critical mass.
It's
No.
terrible.
But but yeah, so just to carry on the conversation around the whole launch and beta testing thing. So um when it comes to going live, we obviously talked about a couple things to do and not to do when you're rolling it out to the market. Are there other tips that you have in terms of ways to set up a successful beta launch for something?
Absolutely. So if I go back to Spinner, which was now 2.5 years ago, we knew that we had to get feedback for this app because it was very unique. It's never been done before. I know people might say that, but if you ever use Spinner, it's a video friendship app. There's no such thing as that. There's like social networking, there's TikTok, which is just video doom scrolling. So we had to figure out how can you make friends through videos? What's the best way to do that? Focus groups. So we went to local area universities and we would set up 50 kids, 50 students in a room, in a classroom. Again, we give them free food, free gift cards. This is really the way to go because what you're doing now is you're physically watching them download and install your app, make accounts, use the app because you give them like 10 different things. They're got steps. Here's the 10 steps. You got to follow these 10 steps. You put it on the screen with the projector. Follow these 10 steps. If they run into trouble, they call you over and you got a bunch of people with you, right? Helpers, and you're all helping. Oh, now I understand it. Okay. So you see their line of thinking,
Hmm.
which is important. The line of thinking of why they asked you a question about a piece of your app now says, maybe I should add a tutorial here. Maybe I should make this button bigger. Maybe I should make it easier to do. And you ask them, say, how would that be easier for you? Well, if you had put it over here, I would have known what it was. Or if you changed the icon to this icon instead of this icon, I would have understood it better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all about getting that live feedback. And it's important. And you do that over and over and over again. We must have ran 10 focus groups, 10 separate weeks. We did online surveys. We would then talk to our actual community, people that are on the app, and we would regularly message them through the app. Literally, it like us founders in the app say, "Hey, what do you think of Spinner? How do you like it? Do you want to do a Zoom with us and kind of talk to us?" We would do Q&A, ask me anythings, online. We would have 50 people show up and ask us questions. Really, you just got to grind with that feedback process. That's really the key. By doing that, you're doing something behind the scenes that people don't realize. You're getting this feedback because you make them feel like they're part of your world, but you're also amassing a beta testing group, right? Like slowly you're getting 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, 500 people. And okay, I got 500 people testing my app now. And that's impressive to people, right? They say, oh, wow. Then when you reach, now we're at like, I think 30,000 actual users. Now it's like, okay, now we have 30,000 people using the app. It's not a huge amount of number, right? Because we don't have 100 billion like Meta to do ads. We have enough to get 500 users a week or something. So that's really, now we're starting to grow organically. We're seeing people use it because we don't have to do a lot of advertising. And that's what you want. You want people to see your product and immediately understand what the solution that it's solving, the problem it's solving, and want to use it because of that, not because of some ad you posted.
Yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, it's far less heavy a lift also if you don't need to convince people
Oh yeah, of
by
course.
hitting them over and over and over again with, oh, well, no, remember it has this value too. So one of the biggest mistakes that I feel I personally made in my entrepreneurial
Uh-oh.
journey is I never really had a mentor.
Uh,
I never really got involved in a mastermind group, and I never had any advisors. So it took me a lot longer than I think it would have, and it was a lot harder and ultimately lonelier. That's
yeah,
one element of entrepreneurship I think a lot of people miss out on, or they misunderstand until they get into it. If you're a solo, if you don't have a partner and somebody that you're working with, it's pretty lonely.
yeah,
We're digitally connected, but it can be isolating. So I know that
agreed.
entrepreneurs can reach their goals a lot faster and easier if they had that. In fact, it's the reason I started my podcast. I wanted to be that sort of mentor I never had. What should they look for in a mentor or an advisor if you're a business owner or entrepreneur?
I mean, the first thing is you have to admit the fact that you need help, right? Because it took me a while, just like you. Luckily for me, I had some mentors push their ways into my life, right? They kind of navigated through my excuses and said, "No, no, no. You need help. You can't do this by yourself." I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s. So I got really lucky in that. So you have to accept them. You have to understand that you cannot do everything yourself and you don't know the answer to everything and you're going to make mistakes. So let them in, number one. Finding the right mentor is important, but mentors are hard to find that work, in the right kind of industry with you because they're busy. These are people that are running big companies, they're CEOs, they're, investors, they're entrepreneurs like you, but they're very, very busy running their own things. So I always say, find the people that you admire and then try to find them online, either on LinkedIn, follow their socials to see what kind of stuff they post. Maybe they have really good videos that give you good advice. Listen to podcasts, right? Because you just said right now, you said, I didn't find a mentor early on. But now you yourself are a mentor because now you're telling people that they should get a mentor. Right? So you're kind of going backwards and saying, "Well, I didn't do it, but you should."
Yeah.
And you should do it as soon as possible. And mentors are usually going to be people like us who have been through every single possible scenario you could think of We've made all the mistakes, we've learned from them, and now we're trying to help you avoid all of those. That's really what mentors do. They help you avoid all the mistakes. That's what we do. We literally tell you, don't do these 10 things. We did those. It was a waste of time and money, but these things worked for us. They may not work for you, but look at how they, helped me improve my business or help me succeed, and try to extract what you can from that knowledge and that experience to make it work for you.
Yeah, and I think even affecting the way that you think about problems and how to
Yeah,
solve them is one of the real values there too. There may not be total synergy in terms of, oh, well, I have the answer to the exact problem you've got,
correct.
but I can give you a framework for how to solve it
Yep.
that I struggled to develop myself because I got kicked in the teeth enough times. And for me, I think it was a combination. Part of it was, look, the blessing of an entrepreneur is the same thing as the curse, right? We believe that we can do it. So we can roll up the sleeves, like we can work harder, we can get it done. And so we believe we're capable of a lot. And you need that to have the guts to get started in the first place. At the same time, you have to be realistic enough and you have to understand that you do need help. There are going to be areas you can't be an expert in everything, nor should you be.
Right. You
Because if
should
you're
not be.
trying to be, you're wasting time that you should be using on the things that are your strengths,
Yep.
trying to make up for weaknesses that, you could just get somebody else who's an expert at that, bring them in, and now, you can solve those problems a lot faster. And that's really what it was for me. I said, I've seen a lot of people fall by the wayside because they've had the passion, they've had the drive to start a business, but then they get discouraged because there's so many obstacles. And it's heartbreaking to me because I feel like anybody that has the guts to go out and do it and the drive to actually do it, not just talk about it or think about it, but start the business and get going and invest their time and money and resources and everything into it, deserves to be able to be successful with it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's not as easy. I mean,
And you got to
everybody
put
sees
together.
like,
Well, you're
yeah,
saying like you were saying like trying to do it by yourself, and there's so many obstacles, and there's so many different things, and play to your strengths. This is why you need a team.
yeah,
And by putting together a team that really complements your strengths, and it may be that there are a lot of things that you can do, but you should not be doing. And a good example of that is content generation and social media and running ads and writing emails and scheduling your things. And there's so many things that you could be doing instead of these tedious kind of things. And, sure, they're important things, each one of them, but you should not be doing them. You should be working on partnerships and like big feature ideas and making sure the app is running well and making sure your product is selling. You should be working on the big picture things. And that's what a team does for you. The team kind of complements all of that. You can't be doing it by yourself, man. And that's what the mentor I found in the late 20s, early 30s in my life said to me. He said, you have to start delegating. You can't do everything by yourself. And I was so stubborn. And the truth is this, by doing a lot of things, and I do tell people this, by doing a lot of things by yourself, at least in the beginning, you learn a lot of skills.
mhm,
You learn how to do a lot of things on your own. You don't rely on a lot of people. So when you do put together a team, you end up teaching them how to do what you do. And they become kind of like mini you, like mini me, like they start to kind of do the work that you do, the way that you do it, so that it's done correctly. It's done at least in your mind correctly. And it comes out really well. The finished product comes out really well. And you don't have to keep micromanaging people. Right.
yeah,
So I would say like you said, learn your framework, learn your process, learn your kind of methodology first, get really good at it, and then you can teach other people how to do it, and then they'll help you, and then you can free yourself up for all the bigger things.
yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. And I was stubborn too, so I, I understand.
I think we all are.
So, so I know another big challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs face is financing, right? So some may be able to fund businesses themselves, depending on what you're going into. But for those who need to raise capital, is there a good way for them to be able to craft a story that they can pitch to investors?
I would have said 10 years ago, maybe, and maybe even 5 years ago, the stories would have won. But things have just dramatically shifted since not only the pandemic, but since A lot of industries got overly saturated. Good example, social networking is just so dead. Dating is so dead. There are so many apps that came out that then everyone started flooding the market, and it's like now everyone's got the next food delivery service. I was just in Texas speaking at an event for my AI app, and somebody was pitching another food delivery service, and I'm like, how is that any different from DoorDash or Uber Eats or Instacart or any of the other ones?
Yeah.
And there was no difference. I was like, okay, so this it's just the running out of ideas thing. So I don't think the stories work. I'll tell you what does, and this is not going to be great news because I've been pitching investors literally nonstop for the last couple of years, trying to raise money for my startup Spinner and
Hmm.
now Vengo AI. And while I've gotten some angel funding and I've gotten a lot of grants from Microsoft, Nvidia, and OpenAI. It's keeping the lights on and it's keeping us moving, which is really, really helpful. What we're hearing from investors is the following: you need to have a minimum of somewhere in the range of $300,000 revenue per year, $25,000 a month for recurring revenue, and you have to have a large user base or a large customer base. So if you're a consumer web app, you got to have like a million users that are actively using your app every day. That will interest somebody. If you're a B2B SaaS platform, you need to have at least 50 customers paying like 500 bucks a month or 1,000 customers paying 50 bucks a month or whatever it is. You got to have those numbers. The reason being, investors are super, super risk averse these days. They really want you to mitigate that risk and say, no, 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 your money isn't going to be helping us get customers. Your money isn't going to be helping us build any apps. Your money is not going to help us run ads. Your money is just going to make what we already did blow up. That's it. We're already making money. We already have customers. We already have people using it. But we want to get from, you know, a million users to 50 million users. We want to get from 50 customers to 500 customers. We need your money to do that. And that's really the only way you're going to do it. Unless you went to Stanford, MIT, Yale, Harvard, and you have a friend, or you worked at Google, Facebook, PayPal, or some other big. Those are the only. That really is the only way to get an investor's attention. Is you went to a really, really high end college, you worked at a really high end company, and you started something and sold it, and now you're ready for the next thing. That's an easy way to get funding, but that's like probably half of 1% of the population. So if you're in the other boat, find the rich uncle or something. If not, you got to grind your butt off to get those numbers I talked about because that's what we're hearing.
Yeah, and I'm actually a believer to some extent, and I understand it's simplistic because it can't always be done. But I'm actually a believer. I love, Damon John's story about how, he had to bootstrap, right? When he was
Yep.
building his fashion brand. And the thing about that is it makes you ruthlessly lean and efficient with all of your resources because you don't have anything to waste. I was fortunate enough to work for an IT consulting company during the dot-com era. And one of the interesting things that I saw was, to your point, you had all of these kids that were 2 days out of graduate school, but they had an Ivy League degree,
Yep.
and investors were throwing hundreds of millions
Throwing
at
money.
them for these startups. And we had consultants at all these startups, and you wouldn't believe the stuff that was going,
Oh
the
yeah.
waste on
Oh
just
yeah.
nonsense,
Parties and
such
sports
a
cars
waste
and
of time.
traveling and
Yes.
oh, I know. It
And
was the bubble. I was right there with you because I was also in IT consulting around the same time.
okay.
I was doing Y2K updates in buildings all over the city, right? So I saw the same thing you saw. And when I was trying to raise money and I saw people getting money that they were blowing it on, I'm not going to say what, but they were blowing the money. And I was like, I could actually use this to build something, but
Yeah.
they had the connection. I didn't.
Yeah.
So connections are everything in this world.
Yeah.
Connections.
And I think the flip side of it is if you can't get that, then use that as a a reason to be really smart about the way that you try to grow, lean with everything that you're doing,
Yep.
and make really good decisions. And I think that that's the alternative. So
Yeah, be really good at data analytics. Like be really good at like getting the data from your results, from your users, from your platform, from your product. Like, get the data, because then you could spit out to an investor, well, yeah, 32% of our users like this, and 82% of our users are doing this, and we're growing at 24% users, in the female range. Just spit those numbers out like that, and they're going to be like, okay, interesting. You know your numbers, yeah, and we can get to $5 million in revenue if we get $250,000 today, and whatever those numbers are, you need to know them like the back of your hand.
Yeah, there's a lot more credibility when you have the stats for sure. So, when most business owners think about marketing and promotion, which is obviously vital for every business, typically advertising, right, is the method that's going to jump to mind. Everyone wants to think about, like, how can I buy ads? How can I? But when we do it right, can we also leverage media and the press to be able to get a lot of exposure that way as well?
100%. I mean, there are so many different ways of reaching out. Like, I was a journalist from 2010 to like 2018 or something. I worked for myself as a journalist first through like a publication online. Then I moved to Medium, and then I got picked up by a real publication that said, "We like your work." So here's what I learned as a journalist. These are the secret tips. Most journalists are going to delete your emails. 100%. They're going to delete them. They're not going to look at them. You got to make it personal, short, and attention grabbing. There's got to be a hook to it. How do you make it personal? You got to read all their stuff, look at all their stuff, and point something out. I really liked your article about how artificial intelligence will help elderly people. It made me realize that my grandmother who needs help, da 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 da. Okay, you got their attention with something personal about their article. Then you have to say, I think you'll really like what I'm doing in AI because I'm also helping elderly people, but in a different way by doing this, this, and this. Okay, now you're telling them what you're doing. Then you say, I'd love to talk over coffee or just over a Zoom, and I'm willing to give you some data, some numbers to back up any of the articles you have. Now you're giving them something incentive wise. Like, I can give you 76% of people who have used my app say that they're less lonely because of it. So you have to incentivize them, you have to make it personal, but don't get discouraged with the fact that they're going to probably delete most of what you send. But press and media, again, if we go back to what we said about getting funding, that's typically what they care about. It's really sad to say this out loud, but it's the truth. Most journalists only care if you just raised $5 million. That's what they want to know. They want to know that you raised a lot of money, and they want to be the ones to write about it. Okay, this startup just raised five. That's why all the articles you see are about they just closed around $100 million, and they just closed around at $50 million, and they just got valued at $4 billion. You keep seeing that in the news because that's what they care about. Do you really often see this guy built a startup and it's helping people? Not really. And if it is, it's like the local publications, right? It's like the local
Yeah.
newspapers and the local publications because they just don't care. They just want to know those big numbers, and that's what I've also seen myself. And as a journalist, I was told by the editors, "Let's go get those startups that are raising big money." I don't know why that is personally, because I used to write stories that had nothing to do with money on purpose because I felt bad for the people who were building something meaningful.
Yeah.
And sometimes they slip through, sure, like the good startups that are helping the world, like that. Of course, you see those, of course, but it's just not as often as those big numbers. So, but you definitely have to write a story that I would say write a lot of blog posts because that's how you can get your story out into the world. You can make a lot of infographics. We've done that in the past where we made a lot of really good infographics, and journalists like those because they can use them in their articles, the data and the stats. Um, what I talked about with the pitching, stick to that format and follow them on all the socials. Just bother them. Mention them in your blogs. Mention them in your socials. Say, hey, at whatever their name is. Your article is so good on learning disabilities. I included a link to that article in this blog post. You know what I mean? Like, show them that you
Right.
care, show them that you're including them, and show them that you're getting them eyeballs on their posts. That's how you what I always tell people is don't pitch investors, form relationships with them. Same
Yeah.
goes for investors. Don't pitch investors, form relationships with them. Because either an article being written or an investment being given, both of those things take 6 months minimum.
Yeah, and ultimately at the end of the day, it's usually about relationships anyway. So you're getting to the same place the same way. But if all of your intention is look at me, people tend to be resistant to it. Whereas if you have value you can offer them, then they're going to be more open minded. And once you get that relationship going and they start to like you, believe in what you're doing, they're going to be looking for a reason to write an article or a reason to give you money as opposed to trying to find reasons not to.
Bingo.
So
You just nailed it.
that's always a good thing.
Yep.
So let's talk about the role of technology in business. How can technology be used to foster deeper human connections? I know in the digital world, right, in some ways we're more connected now than we ever were, and yet at the same time we're sort of more isolated. So what do we do with technology in that paradox?
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, I'm going to say something controversial here, but social media has completely destroyed the fabric of human interaction. Completely. It has,
Yeah.
we already know it's divided us during elections. We already know that it's pushing people apart. We already know that it's making people antisocial, depressed, lonely. How do we change that? Well, obviously, people need to start meeting in person more often. That's the number one thing. I mean, people need to start doing things in person more often, which I think they are starting to do now. The last couple of years, I mean, the pandemic really screwed everything up, but the last couple of years, I'm noticing people are like, okay, they're making it more of an effort. But at the same time, people have gotten really used to their comfortable homes with their big TVs, their Amazon deliveries, and the food being delivered. Everything's being delivered. I mean, you don't have to leave your house anymore, which is crazy that we live in an era where we have AI helping us, we have smartphones to do everything for us. So we're in a big challenging kind of world right now. We're living in the future. We're living in a sci-fi world, and we have to figure out a way to break through that. That's why we built Spinner. It was a way for people to face have video chats, talk about their hobbies, and then meet in person to do those hobbies. That's literally all we built. There's no doom scrolling, there's no ads, there's no influencers, there's no social networking, there's no likes, there's no followers, there's no trolls, there's no negative comments. All that stuff is gone. It's literally completely gone. So it's the core value of our app is conversations, face-to-face interactions, and meeting in person. That's it. Those are the three things. So whether it's Spinner or something else, you have to find something that lets you do that. That's the only way technology is going to help. So many people have tried to beat Facebook, and say we gotta beat Facebook. We gotta get people off the internet. We gotta get people off Twitter, which is such a troll haven. We
Yeah.
gotta get people off Reddit, which is so hateful. And Discord is so confusing and so like scammy. Like, how do we get people off these things in person? That's it. Go do things in person. I just went to my 30th high school reunion over the weekend, and I got to see like all these people. That's dating me, I know, but I'm going. I got to see all these people in person, and it really reminds you of the fun times you had, the memories you had, and you got to do it more often. You can't wait for every 10 years for a reunion. Call your friends that you used to be friends with. They probably need a friend too, and say, hey, let's go grab a drink. Let's go grab a bite to eat. Let's go for a walk. Let's just catch up. Who cares? Like, there's no. I think that part of the problem. And here's what I think you're trying to get to is part of the problem is breaking through that kind of shyness and that like embarrassment of like I need a friend. Like the humans are social creatures, but you
Yeah.
also don't need 5,000 Facebook friends. There was like that study that said you need like 150 tops. I think I have 600. And out of those 600, it's all family, friends, high school, college friends, business connections. I deleted 4,400 friends over the pandemic. Boom, deleted.
Yeah. Look, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the irony is, right, as we're more connected, we're more disconnected because you can't replace face-to-face communication and spending time together. And I'll tell you a story about this that's actually totally illustrates the point. So in the business, I've been doing software development as well for quite some time, and I make smaller apps that are we use affiliate marketing, and so there's a group of us that all would create apps, and we sort of got to know each other, and we use a couple of the platforms that are out there to promote them. So we talk all the time on Skype, but we don't, they're not even video calls, it's just text chat.
Right.
But we only get together once or twice a year. and there's, events, conferences, and people will go to them. So for a couple of years in a row, just resisted that. And I
Mm,
had one of the guys in my business kept telling me, trust me, dude, just come to the event. You're going to really like this. And I have to say, part of affiliate marketing is relationships. You got to get people. Yes, they're going to promote products that are going to make them money, but at the end of the day, they promote stuff for people they like
mhm.
and for people that they know. And so in the industry we're in, when you go to an event and you meet people and you're having drinks and, spending time in the back of the room in the lobby and happy hour and all that other stuff, that's where you develop those relationships where the people start to really want to promote your stuff regardless of how much it makes them. And so I finally broke down because my attitude was, I got to spend money on a flight. I got to spend money on a hotel room. I'm going to be away from the office or, my house for several days to do this. This is a big investment. I mean, this is a
Yeah,
big, and I'm losing out all the productivity that I would have. I have to tell you, it was the most productive weekend of probably of the whole year that I had in my business. Yet, ironically, I wasn't working on the business. I was building
right.
relationships
Yep.
with other people. We were spending time together. And then when you go back to the office, that relationship via Skype
Continues.
means so much more
Yeah.
because you've met, you know each other now, right? And
And it
so
continues and it means more and it's more productive and it's more, you're doing more together now because you've been able to talk about it in person. I totally get that. It's funny you said that because I did something that I've never done before. Well, maybe I can't say that. I did do it before, but I haven't done it in a long time. I went to Austin, Texas, because my CTO for Spinner is there. And he kept saying, we got a great ecosystem for tech in Austin. And I kept hearing about that, but I never went. So finally, I just pulled the trigger, man. I went to Austin about 4 or 5 months. It was during the summer. It was like June, and I spoke for my AI company in front of all these people and like kind of presented it. It was kind of like a networking thing, and I got to present it. And the amount of people that were like blown away by what we built because they don't have that there for some reason. Like I said, they have those delivery apps and things. They were just blown away. They showed me all around all the tech areas, and I met so many people, and I was able to make some relationships that I'm still currently working with these guys on a daily basis, and they've gotten me customers.
that's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that is. But it just goes to show you at the end of the day, it's come full circle because it's all back to relationships again. And you can't replicate that
No,
nearly as well, no matter how many people you can reach. And I love technology, but I think it's so important to have that face to face as well. So, all right. So where can people find you, your products, your services, and connect with you?
absolutely. My website, jasonsherman.org, has all of my links right on the homepage. You'll find like all my socials. You can hit me up, spinner.app, vengoai.com. You got my podcast, you got my book, my course. Everything I do is to like help people. So it's all free. Just helping people do what they need to do to succeed.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So, I have one last question I have to ask because I think it's important and it's always interesting to hear everyone's perspective on it. So, what's your number one tip for success as a business owner or entrepreneur?
Take a lot of breaks. Like seriously, I can say validate your product and find your target market and all that hoo-ha, but you got to take a lot of breaks because you mentioned about using technology in business. It's about not using technology in business. It's about taking breaks, do yoga, do meditation, exercise, go for walks, drink tea, coffee, water, call your mom, like walk your dog, watch TV, like listen to a podcast, listen to music, get out of your head and take those breaks because you'll be way more focused and way more productive and way happier if you do that.
I like that. Yeah, I think having that balance and the time where we can actually unplug
Yep.
it, again, paradoxically makes us more productive for the
Yep.
time that we are working as opposed to staring at a screen
Yep.
and being at 20% efficiency because our eyes are blurry and we're exhausted and we can't think straight. So
Yep.
I, again, couldn't
100%.
agree with you more on that. So thanks so much,
Hey
again,
man,
Jason,
this
for
was
sharing
awesome.
all your insights, great tips. Visit jasonsherman.org to get his book or listen to his podcast, both named Strap On Your Boots. Get his course or find his YouTube channel, both named Startup Essentials. Thanks for tuning in. As always, remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise. optYOUmize.